Filming. So, we're live. Brilliant. So, such an exciting day. Welcome to the essay evaluation. We actually have a guest speaker today, and a lot of students have been asking me about the speaking. So, two exciting things. I have gone and found a speaking coach, and she deals specifically with speaking anxiety in a different language. So, that's just perfect for us. And then, I am so incredibly excited at the improved standard of essays that are being submitted as a result of people following the free essay structure PDF. So it's just remarkable. So well done. I congratulate you on your hard work. I congratulate you on your ability to follow instructions. Just remember, it's just a guideline. You know, if you're already band 7, you can use other structures, but this is a guideline to get you to a band 7 in the quickest way possible. And someone just submitted an essay this morning that was just wonderful, and it followed the sentence structure that I did meticulously. So, okay, this week, say hi, and if you want me to see your name, then click on the StreamYard link above. We've got a great essay to look at this week. The topic was cause and solution. So we're going to do a different topic each week because this is how we learn the best, when we really focus on one essay type. The essay I've chosen this week is actually someone who was on the masterclass at the weekend, and someone who's a very high level, but just completely unsure how to write an IELTS essay. And so she's produced a really good essay, but there's some work we can do on it. And I'd love you to help me with this. Okay. So who do I have? Which countries are you from just at the moment? Let me tech. Great. Elsa Joy. We had such a wonderful session in the academy this morning. Someone who joined band 5 in writing in really a short space of time is now producing band 6 essays, and we're just tidying up some residual errors, such as articles, which is the most common error, especially with students from Asian countries. And so I'm just delighted to see this progress. I am going to be including speaking in my academy. So I'm a real perfectionist, and I love to focus on one thing and do it well. And so I only wanted to help students with writing because I thought I only have the time to do one thing well. But now I do it very well. I'm actually including speaking. So if you are interested in improving your fluency and you also need help with writing, I'd love you to DM me afterwards and I'll tell you what we're going to do. So, okay, the essay today is cause and solution. Cause and solution. Hi, you guys. So it's lovely. So I can't see your names because StreamYard doesn't let me see your name. So South Africa, Egypt. This is so useful to see which country you're from. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Thank you so much. Vietnam, Italy. Yeah. Love you all. Love to see you. So we are sharing my screen. And we're going to look at this cause and solution essay. So, now, can you see it? Do you need the words to be a bit bigger? Let me know. Mahiti! Oh, that's so great to see you. Of course I remember you. Yes, so this week, I'm just waiting to see if you need it. Hey, Lucy, it's great to see you. I'm just waiting to see if you need it the writing to be a little bit bigger. I can make it bigger if you need. Is it okay? All right, Amira, thank you. So, Just remember, there are many ways to write an IELTS essay, and I focus on getting you to 7 in the quickest way possible, okay? Once you're at 7, you can do what you like. You can experiment, you can write different strategies, but I love to get students to a 7. And the way I do that is by each week in this group, in the free group, and in the academy, focusing on one question type. So there's not overwhelm, okay? So in the masterclass at the weekend, we did a to what extent essay, and it was just such a great experience. It was really, really good. I got some brilliant, brilliant essays written, and I recorded it. I might release that as a little mini course. So this question, let's have a look. There are many female students who finish degrees in science and technology courses at university, but few move into the workplace after they graduate. Now, this word in the question, few, is so regularly misunderstood by students. Few has a very negative meaning, and it means really not very many at all. So there's few and a few. And when students write essays, often they say few people think instead of a few people think. So anyway, few is quite negative, meaning this is negative. Why is this? What measures can be taken to encourage them into work? I have chosen this essay because it follows so closely the strategy that I have designed with examiners to give you for free. So the people who take the time to read it and apply it, those are the people whose essays I'm going to choose for evaluation, okay? So let's have a look at this. There are many female students. A significant number of women acquire degrees related to science and technology courses, okay, at tertiary level. After graduation, however, just a few of them end up working. Okay, so by which it can be solved. Okay, so this is wonderful. All right, and this is in the essay structure PDF. That's brilliant. There's a little issue with this. Okay, there's a little bit of repetition of ideas. A significant number of women acquire degrees related to science and technology courses. Are the degrees related to courses, or are they just related to science and technology? So Sammy has said degrees and then courses, and then she says at tertiary level. But degrees always mean tertiary level. So that's, what do we say? I love this word. I get my students to use this in their writing. Superfluous. Superfluous means not necessary. It's extra information we don't need. So I would say, so she just delete this at tertiary level, but then maybe she doesn't want to repeat degrees. So she could say, I need to switch browsers to see if you've got any solutions. So, we're just going to get this lovely Italian person's comment off so you can see the screen more. Do you follow me so far? Do you see why there's repetition there? So I would say a significant number of women complete formal education at tertiary level in science and technology courses, or I would simply say a significant, she can keep the word degrees. The biggest myth is that you cannot repeat a word, and you definitely can repeat a word. So I would delete this. So she doesn't need to say courses. She doesn't need to say tertiary level because that's included in degrees. Then comma here, good. After graduation, however, just a few of them end up working. Great. Good, good, good. Okay, so far so good. Now, one thing I should comment is this essay is 350 words. And so according to me, she needs to lose 60 words. So the risk with writing this many words is you'll never finish on time. The more you write, the more you have a chance of making an error. So we need to make this more succinct, okay? So let's have a look. A major reason why just a scanty number of, we need of here, of female graduates end up working can be attributed to most women rushing into marriages and starting families shortly after school. Okay. Okay. First of all, scanty is too informal. Okay. So I would just say here just a small number, or insignificant. Well, I'll tell you what we could use. We could use why. Well, so we won't use just. A major reason why an inconsequential number, that's a new word for you today, of graduates end up working can be attributed to most women rushing into marriages. I don't know, that's also a little bit informal. It's women marrying and starting families shortly after school. I would say getting married. I don't know that I would say rushing into marriages here. It's this particular student has a lovely way of expressing herself, and like me, I'm quite a creative person. I find it actually quite hard to do academic writing because I want to express myself in, expressive vocabulary, but doesn't really suit academic writing. So I wouldn't say rushing into marriage. I would say most women marrying and starting families shortly after school. Okay. All right, so far? I really like her topic sentence. So in the masterclass at the weekend, we really focused on topic sentences, and I might do a free training on this. So you need to be so clear and you need to be so simple in your topic sentence, and the examiner needs to know what exactly you're talking about. And when I started teaching IELTS, I sent some of my own essays. I wrote essays to send to an examiner to get marked. And I'll tell you a secret. I sent an essay to an examiner and I just expected, oh yeah, I'll get a 9. I'm a native speaker. I'm a teacher. And I got a 7.5. And I was horrified. I looked at him and I said, what do you mean a 7.5? And contacted the examiner and called him. Why did I get a 7.5? He just explained, actually, you need to make it a bit more simple. And I need to understand what you're trying to tell me very clearly. And so this is what I focus on with students. And the majority of the feedback that I got from the masterclass at the weekend was like, oh, that was amazing. Thank goodness. I didn't know it had to be so simple. Oh, okay, great. So many students are like, they're in a stress. Like, I have to create this amazing academic vocabulary, amazing thing. And actually, it's a lot more simple than you think. So a major reason why is a great topic sentence, because now we know she's going to talk about the major reason. Okay, so this is her topic sentence, and then the next sentence she has to explain. Okay, so marrying and starting families. Now she has to say something about that. In order to get 8 in coherence and cohesion, every sentence needs to be linked to each other and linked to the question. And we focused on this a lot in the masterclass as well. How does this sentence, I would say to students, how does this sentence connect to the question? Okay, so let's see. It is quite a common dream of most young women at the university to fantasize about getting married and started families of their own after school. Okay, I would like you guys to tell me if you think that sentence is necessary. Let me know if you think that's necessary. Look at the sentence before it, look at the sentence after it, and tell me if this sentence is necessary, because we need to lose 60 words, okay? I'm going to highlight this sentence. So she told me in her topic sentence, a major reason that females don't work is because they get married. And then she says it's a common dream to get married. And then she says this leads to. This sentence, according to me, is completely unnecessary. She's got too many words. She doesn't need to say that. So she says about the reason is getting married. And then ideally, the next sentence after your topic sentence should say, this is because, or this leads to, or this means that. So this leads to, oh, we did this in grammar on the masterclass. Oh, this is wonderful. This leads to the majority of them prioritizing. So we did a crash grammar lesson studying the pattern of this leads to. So after this leads to, we need object, and then we need ing, prioritizing marriages. Okay, so object is the majority of them, and then ing, prioritizing. Great points there. Marriages over career development upon school completion. And now I've made a mistake, actually. Actually, that follows on beautifully, Joy. That does follow on beautifully from It's a Common Dream. Okay, but still too many words. Okay, it is quite a common dream of most young women at university. Okay, in that case, we need to delete the. We say just university or school. We don't say the. It's quite a common dream of most young women at university fantasize about getting married and starting families of their own after school. Okay, in that case, we need to make the topic sentence shorter. This leads to the majority of them prioritizing marriages over career development upon school completion. More often than not, they subsequently start having babies not long after marriage and end up their professions are put on hold. So we need here, and their professions end up. Does anybody know the grammar after end up? Do we have to, or do we have just verb infinitive, or do we have ing? Thanks, Herbert. BP1 and not working, end up not working. I see what you mean. Okay. So, and so end up being put on hold. This results in most of them getting stuck. We did a grammar crash course and she's got all of the grammar correct. So this results in most of them getting stuck at home by taking care of family instead of at the workplace. Well, they don't take care of at the workplace. So getting, I wouldn't say getting. This results in most of them. Getting is overused and just not very academic. Remaining, maybe. Remaining stuck at home. Taking care of family instead of pursuing a career. Okay, so they don't take care of the workplace. That the way that was written didn't make much sense. Okay, so now what she has done is she's written one sentence of a solution, but I understand that this paragraph is about the causes. So why? Why is this? It's because they have babies. And then in the same paragraph, or maybe I copied and pasted this wrongly. Right. Stay there. I need to, and then my apologies to Samantha, I think I've copied and pasted it wrongly. Maybe that was her first sentence. Let me just check. She sent it to me on Messenger. Alrighty. Okay. No, she did. She separated the paragraph. So for me, it doesn't make sense that this sentence is here. Okay. This sentence really needs to be to introduce the solutions paragraph. Okay. So what I would say, keep the topic sentence really short. Okay. I would say, however, and I wouldn't put the idea in the topic sentence. I would say, however, there are initiatives by which, however, there are initiatives by which or which can address this issue, and then we would say firstly. Okay, so I wouldn't make the topic sentence so long. This can be addressed by incorporating early and blah, 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 blah. Which can address this issue. I would say firstly. Oh, she said firstly there. Okay, there are initiatives which can address this issue. Right, hold on a sec. I hate to change someone's essay too much. When this can, however, be addressed by incorporating early and persistent career guidance and counselling throughout the period of school at the university. So we don't have the with university. I'm actually going to take away what I've written because that makes sense if we put that all together, if that's the paragraph. Firstly, the common dream of young women wanting to get married soon after graduating must clearly be addressed. This can be solved by clearly and persistently emphasizing on how important and liberating being financially independent as a woman is. Okay. This can be solved by clearly and persistently emphasizing. We don't emphasize on, we just emphasize how important and liberating being financially independent as a woman is. On top of that, renowned career women can be invited occasionally to campuses to deliver talks that inspire, encourage, and help educate young females on their career journey and also give them a clear picture of how fulfilling being professionally established as a woman can be. Okay. I mean, that's good as a woman. But we do need to lose words. Oh, we've got secondly here. Secondly, okay, although university education basic, so read through this with me, everyone, and then we're going to see how we can reduce it. Secondly, although university education basically focuses on academia, an important aspect of life, such as career and its development, must also be considered. Lecturers and mentors experienced in career building can help female students plan successful careers. Okay. How does the second idea differ from the first? Because we need to reduce some words here. Let me just see if there are any comments. It's very long, very, very long. Okay, this can, however, be addressed by incorporating early and persistent career guidance and counselling throughout the period of schooling at university. Firstly, the common dream of women wanting to get married soon must clearly be addressed. This can be solved by I would actually delete that. On top of that, renowned career women. Or maybe, what should I delete? That inspire, encourage, and help educate young females on their career journey. And also give them a clear picture of how fulfilling being professionally established as a woman can be. Secondly, although university education basically focuses on academia, an important aspect of life such as career and its development must also be considered. Lecturers and mentors experienced experience in career building can help female students plan a successful career by constantly guiding and counseling. Okay. In conclusion, female graduates can be encouraged into entering the workforce by not limiting university education to just academia, but also valuable subjects like career guidance and counseling should also be greatly considered. Lecturers and mentors. I might actually, I mean, it does make sense, but I might actually completely omit the second idea. Because in the first idea, you have given two solutions. You've said that wanting to get married must be addressed, and career women can help to come and inspire women to being professionally established. Right. If Sammy's there, I hope she doesn't mind me speaking directly to her. That's it's a very similar idea to the second one. How long it takes to develop a successful career, and the first idea is how fulfilling it is being professionally established. I might even, Sammy, you don't have time to write 350 words. You don't have time to do it. So you may, but it's more than likely that you don't. I couldn't do it, and do the task one as well. So I would possibly omit that second idea. You've only got one cause, therefore having one or two solutions is enough. Okay, any questions? Yeah, so we could omit either the last idea or the on top of that. Great. This could be Sammy, but I'm not sure. So let me give this a score. So task response. Probably a 7. And her coherence and cohesion would be an 8. Lexical resources, very high. Lexical resources. Oh. It's a shame, there's just that little bit of repetition in the introduction actually let most of the essay down. But this is a very good essay. This is 7.5 or an 8 essay. Little bit of informal language at the beginning, so scanty number, rushing into. We must remember, if we are expressive people, and I'm an expressive person, to make our writing as academic as possible, which just means basically no feeling about it. And when you read this word rushing into marriages, there's like this feeling, and there shouldn't be any feeling in academic writing. It's terrible, terribly boring. So all right, very, very good. So we are expecting Sarah. This would be, I'm going to give this a 7.5. Now, any questions? We're going to do a little bit of a question and answers session, open floor. So anything about IELTS writing that you would like to ask, we'll have an open floor for a little while. So I put a message in the group the other day, and I did a poll, and I said, okay, who is looking for writing and speaking? If you were going to buy a course, okay, what do you need? Do you need writing and speaking, or do you need all 4 modules, writing, speaking, reading, listening, or do you need just writing? And in that poll, 100 people said writing and speaking, and about 23 people said all 4 modules. Gabrielle, great. Let's see. Is it necessary to write the total? No. Definitely not, Gabrielle. Gabriella. It's a good question. But great questions are coming in. Great questions. Okay. It's definitely not necessary to write the total number of words, but you should have kind of in your mind that you should be writing like about 4 sentences for each body paragraph. I looked at your essay this morning, Gabriella, and it was just far too long. I'd love to share maybe, I don't know if you've signed up for the essay structure PDF, but after you get that, I send you a band 8 essay, and it's only got 4 sentences in the second paragraph. So you're looking 4 or 5 sentences, and you should train yourself to write that many, okay? As always with the paper-based, make sure that your writing is really clear. For people from, European countries, they write in cursive, and it's difficult to read for the examiner. Okay, so how is the introduction and conclusion? Oh, that's a good question. Do you mean how is the introduction different for a to what extent question, and how is the introduction different for discuss both views? Is that what you mean? And great, we've got a vocabulary question. I'm gonna talk about vocabulary, and then I'm going to be talking about vocabulary with Sarah, who's the speaking coach, in a minute. So, right. How is the introduction and conclusion different? In some introductions, it can be a good idea to put your ideas, and that's what we did at the masterclass at the weekend. And if you're interested in the next masterclass, I'm going to do one in another 4 weeks. So you get to come in and write with me, and I give you feedback. So in a to what extent essay, it can be nice to put your ideas. I strongly agree with this because, and then you put your ideas. But in this essay, let's look at Sarah's. Not Sarah's, Sammy's. Can you please tell me, look at this introduction, can you tell me, did she put her ideas? There's the introduction. Do you see the ideas in that introduction? There's actually no ideas in the introduction. For some essay types, I recommend, and so do the examiners that I work with, if there are 2 questions, like why and what, if there are 2 questions, then we keep your introduction thesis. This is the thesis. we keep it very general. You don't put your ideas, and you simply say, this essay discusses the reason behind this trend and suggests measures by which it can be tackled. I forgot to make one comment here. If it's just one reason, if she's just going to talk about one reason, which she did, then she should say the main, okay? And if it's plural, if she's going to talk about two reasons, then she can say reasons, plural. Just looking at my hand. So I've got a swollen hand. I use my mouse to actually use my computer too much. So there are different grammar structures we can use for different conclusions. So I help students write an inversion sentence in the conclusion for a to what extent essay. So to conclude, I strongly agree with this, not only because of this, but also this. So, but more or less, the introductions and conclusions are the same, more or less. You paraphrase, you write a thesis. Your thesis tells the reader what you're going to say, okay? And your paraphrase talks about the question in a different way. And it's not necessary to write a background sentence. Someone put an essay in the group this morning, and she wrote a background sentence, and the essay was brilliant, and the background sentence was awful. And so it's the first sentence that I read. So I just thought, oh, the essay isn't going to be very good. But I read the essay, and the essay was very good. So the background sentence can really let you down, and it doesn't give you more points. You should just paraphrase immediately, and that's what I tell students how to do. So tips for next question. Oh, that wasn't the first question. Tips for coherence and the amount of linking words to be used. So I would love to see, for coherence, I don't want to see lots of furthermore, to illustrate every sentence starting with a linking word makes it sound robotic. So I would love to see phrases like, this means that, or this is because. When you're using this or these, it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful for your coherence and cohesion because you're referencing the previous sentence. There isn't a limit to the amount of linking words. I wouldn't like to see more than 2 linking words in a paragraph. I had a student from the UAE and she said, oh, but Joy, my teacher told me I need 7 linking words every essay. There is no rule. The essay just needs to sound natural. So there's no rule, but no more than 2 linking words per paragraph. So maybe you could use to illustrate, and maybe you could use moreover, but that's it. Don't use any more. Your other sentences should have like maybe a complex structure. We did this in the academy this morning. So like, if the government does this, comma, then this will happen. And we use this as a conditional. We use this to explain the idea. And that's wonderful for coherence and cohesion. Now, next tip, how to improve vocabulary. Such a great question. Read. You should be reading as many essays as you write, okay? You should not be focusing on learning fancy words. You should be focusing on using natural words. You should be also focusing on words that go together, collocations. So what I tell my students to read is the National Geographic online. It's a really great article publication with lots of articles about IELTS style topics, and read other essays. You should be reading other essays, some good essays, and I can advise which sites to read from, and making notes of the vocabulary that's connected with each topic. So in the math, I'll give you an example, okay? Would you like me to show you a sample band 9 essay? Would you like that? I'll show you a sample essay if you like, and I will highlight the synonyms. Let me do that. You want to be learning like 1 good synonym per word. So someone said yes, good. Then I will show you 1 good synonym per word. So Bear with me 1 second. Bear with me. It's not showing me this. Okay, good. So this is the essay we wrote in the masterclass at the weekend. This is the sample. Now, some students produced really good work. Some students were producing band 7 and 8 essays with my feedback. Okay. A country becomes more interesting and develops more quickly when its population includes a mix of cultures. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, you should be reading essays like this to pick up words. This is the vocabulary question, like multicultural nations, okay? Higher levels of progress. So we want to see groups of natural words like this that go together, more stimulating to live in. Now, I totally agree with this because life is more interesting among an eclectic mix of cultures, okay? And a broader range of perspectives leads to societies that grow faster. Now, have a look here. The main reason I agree is because ethnically diverse nations. So all of these words go beautifully together, and you're going to improve your vocabulary by reading other essays and making a note of these types of phrases. Definitely don't try to learn individual vocabulary. Don't go to like a book and learn words. Make sure that the essays that you're reading are good essays. Don't go to like a group where there are band 5 essays, but you think maybe they're good. Yeah, so that's how to improve your vocabulary. Facebook user, can you please tell me who you are? That would be lovely. I found your vocabulary book useful. I've actually got a vocabulary book. I might send that out to everyone later. Stop screen. Share. Right. And one more question. To what extent? If I agree with the idea, should I mention reasons of disagree also? No, not necessary. At all. You can if you want, if you can do it well, but you're more likely to lose points if you are not band 7 already, and you're more likely to be not clear on your idea. And giving a balanced approach, like I agree a little bit, I disagree a little bit, however I agree, it doesn't give you a better score. But always students think I have to talk about the other side to get a good score. No, you don't. So, and then this student says, could you share the websites and IELTS resources? So my favorite website is, go to this website to read essays, okay? IELTS Buddy sample essays. I recommend the essays here. They don't follow the structure that I teach. Let me put that there. They don't follow the structure that I teach, but they've got great IELTS Buddy. Put this in Google, okay? IELTS Buddy sample essays, and look at they've got links to different type of essays. Yeah, I've just put it in the comments. There it is, Asma. Okay, you guys. So we are going to invite Sarah. She's just coming. This is a long session today. I'm going to invite Sarah in. So Gabriella, as I have not clearly addressed the essay earlier, does this mean that I do not get a score at all in task response, or do I not get you will get a score. You might get a score 5 in task response. I'd have to look at your essay again, Gabriella. I'd have to look at your essay again. If you don't address the question well, but it was still a good standard of writing that you delivered. So you may, but the thing is, if you score low for task achievement, then it's difficult to make the score better for the other skills. So now we're going to invite Sarah in, and Sarah is a speaking coach. Okay, so she coaches people, even in the business world, who are doing business in their second language and they have lots of anxiety around speaking. But she also coaches IELTS students. Her speciality is mindset and speaking in the IELTS exam. So if you still have time and you're still here, I'd like you to think of some questions that you're going to ask her. She's going to talk about the 3 biggest problems that speaking students have. And afterwards, I'm going to be opening the doors to the academy. So I'm super, super excited. Some of my students have recently got a 7 and some have left. And so I've got some spaces. And so I'm now including speaking on it, and I've increased the amount of personal feedbacks you get. So you get unlimited access to daily classes, writing and speaking. These are Zoom sessions, and you also get the video lessons, and I email you the feedback afterwards, and you get a new sample essay each week, and you get your weaknesses identified. So I'm opening the door. It's an invitation for some people who are stuck on a 6 or a 6.5 and they need to get to a 7. Now let's invite Sarah. So hello, Sarah.
Hello, Joy. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, it's a pleasure. It's lovely to be here.
Okay, so I've just kind of introduced you to the group, and we've got 28 people watching now, but I know that a lot of people will be watching the replay because different time zones and whatnot. So you and I came across each other. Hi, Chits, and we've got some new people. Hi. We came across each other before Christmas in IELTS circles, and I just thought,
we did.
perhaps, yeah. Would you like to? I think students are always nervous, like, can I trust this person? And why don't you talk a little bit about your experience and what you do?
So I've been teaching English as a foreign language for almost 20 years now, which I find slightly shocking. And I started in Asia because I was traveling and backpacking and I just basically needed some money. And over time, as I got trained and qualified and got more experience, it just kind of became what I do. And about 4 years ago, I started teaching online, a bit like yourself, kind of through Zoom, some groups and private students and so on and so forth. In terms of IELTS, I've been connected with IELTS teaching probably for about 9 years, I would say. And I've done some of the British Council training courses for IELTS as well. In terms of my teaching qualifications, I've got the Cambridge University Delta, which is the diploma in English language teaching.
Awesome. Awesome. I have the Trinity equivalent. Oh, I don't know if it's the equivalent, but I've got the Dip TESOL. So I've introduced you as top mindset coach, and I just wonder if we could talk a little bit about what your experience is coming across issues with mindset, because I think it's so big for so many students.
Yeah. So I basically started to notice this when I began teaching online about 4 years ago. I started working a lot one-to-one with people. And I really just started to hear the same stories over and over again. And these were stories like, I'm terrible, I'm useless, my pronunciation's awful, I hate my English, I'll never be able to pass my exam. And I started to do research, and what I discovered is that second language anxiety is a psychological phenomena that most people have to some extent. I expect your audience on the day of the IELTS exam, if I did IELTS, I'd probably be quite nervous about it. But for some people, it becomes a real barrier to them achieving anything with their language use. I know people who are too scared to speak in meetings or who are too scared to go and order a coffee. So what I now specialize in, as well as teaching, is really helping people overcome that through various techniques. But that's really what I'm most interested in now.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. What would you say the biggest 3 problems are with second language speaking and anxiety?
I think I think a really big problem that people have is they think they need to be perfect. So people worry a lot about making mistakes. And I have I have a lovely, lovely student. She's amazing. She's actually at C1, if not C2.
Oh,
And
wow.
we'll do a lesson and she'll say, "Did I make mistakes? How many mistakes?" And I'm like, that isn't really the point. Like, no one's listening for that when you're at work or in meetings. No one cares if you've used the present perfect or the past simple. Honestly, I care. You care because we're teachers. But out there in the world, the message is more important. So, this kind of worrying about mistakes and being really perfectionist about language, that is a really big barrier to achieving fluency.
Huge. And I'd like to just share that I have, I just to do a little, I've more or less stopped doing one-to-one, but I do have one or two students, and one of them is, very, very, and I believe it's holding her fluency back, very focused on being accurate.
Mm.
And so it almost, reduces her fluency a lot. And she asks me the same question,
Yeah.
Sarah. She says, how many mistakes did I make?
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't.
Yeah.
In the world, nobody cares. For your
No.
exam, yes, perhaps, but in the world, no one cares. It's part of you and your language, and I can see her intense anxiety about saying exactly the right word in every sentence, which does inhibit her. This is actually a past student, but it inhibited her progress a lot. Yeah, so that's number one. So the biggest problem is that you think you have to be perfect. Do you think that is pertains to specific nationalities, or do you think that's for any second language learner?
That's a really good question. My guess is that this kind of thinking comes from education systems. So when we go to school as kids, and this is a generalization, but we are taught mistakes bad, ticks good. And depending on our teachers and the kind of education culture we grow up in, we basically form a belief that making a mistake is a really bad thing. And then if you've got an exam like IELTS where you know that you are being marked on your accuracy and your ability to use grammar structures and vocabulary, then it can become any mistake I make is negatively impacting the results that I need. And so the mistakes are terrible and I have to stop them. And in actual fact, I was looking at the IELTS band descriptors this afternoon, and even at band 8, it says errors and occasional inappropriacies are still there, and that's at
Yes,
band 8.
but this is what I try and tell students with the writing as well. They can still make errors,
Yeah,
and it says, yeah, you can still make errors,
yeah,
yes, and score incredibly highly.
yep,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And if you watch videos, I've got a DVD, official British Council IELTS DVD, and I've watched it with students. It's got examples from band 3 to band 8.5 speaking, and even the ones at the very, very top, they're not perfect. They're not perfect. They're just very, very good. And I think this is such an important distinction to make.
Mm. I missed the last word. My connection just cut out there. So I'm so sorry. I'm just so between a band 3 and a band 8.5, they're not
Yep.
perfect. The band
No,
8.5.
they're
Okay.
not perfect.
So the biggest problem, number one, you think you have to be perfect. And I'm just going to share a little story about this. So I've got an online academy and I focus on writing. And a couple of my students, when they signed up, they said, "Do you do speaking?" And I said, "Well, not at the moment." So he went and found another speaking trainer. And he was sharing with the other students, and he was saying, I just found a group where I could practice. It doesn't, and he said exactly the same thing. He said, I needed the opportunity to learn to speak fluently. And he told us, he said, I was put in a group in Zoom room with someone else. I didn't know if I was making mistakes. This other person wasn't qualified to take me my mistakes, but the teacher came in occasionally and listened for a little bit of this or that. And he said, just the ability to practice and get the smallest bit of feedback really, really improved my score. So he's really got the right idea. He's someone that takes imperfect action. And this is something that I learned, like trying to start an online business, is that when you get stuck in trying to be perfect, all the other people who are taking imperfect action are succeeding in life, and they are becoming millionaires, and they're doing this and that. Whereas I would spend a year getting stuck on like, what colors are good for my website? It's like, it has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And then you get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, you don't have to be perfect.
No.
What's your second biggest problem that you've come across, Sarah?
I think this is kind of related to the first one, but again, I've noticed this a lot with learners, particularly at the higher levels, is that people think that they have to be accurate and fluent together at the same time. And when I'm teaching, and particularly now if I'm teaching exam students, I try and get them to separate out their accuracy work and their fluency work. So when I was much younger than I am now, I went to music college. So my first degree is actually in piano, like classical performance piano. And so I used to spend maybe 4 or 5 hours a day in a little room with a piano, practicing very difficult bits of music.
Wow.
And in order to learn a very long, complex piece of music, you have to basically break it into very, very tiny chunks and practice those chunks again and again and again and again and again and again. And then every once in a while, you try and put all the chunks together and it kind of goes a bit wrong. So then you break it all apart again and start again. But the point is that I was separating out that accuracy work from the fluency work, because if you try and just do fluency, you don't get all the detail. But if you only practice accuracy, you never give yourself that chance to get into the flow and to just express yourself. And I really feel that speaking English or speaking a second language is exactly the same. You know, if a person is worrying about, I've got to get a third conditional in here, I've got to use that
Oh,
phrasal verb,
yes.
I've got to get a relative
Yeah.
clause in,
Yeah. Yeah.
the fluency
Yeah.
drops. It completely
Oh.
drops. So you need that balance between the accuracy and the fluency is really important.
Can that happen on your own, Sarah? Do you think, with speaking, or does someone really need a guidance or a tutor, or can they focus on accuracy and fluency alone?
I think people can probably do more on their own than they think they can.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think with exam preparation in particular, there is a lot that people can do. You just need a smartphone and to have the courage to record yourself
Oh, yes,
and
you have
then,
to record
you know,
yourself. Yes.
learn how
Yes.
to give yourself feedback. So you can do a lot, but I think you need someone to help you with, knowing where you are and knowing what you need to do next.
Okay. So a bit of a roadmap,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
Brilliant. Okay. So separating accuracy and fluency.
Hmm.
Actually, and on that note, I just find with students, they just don't know where to start with
No.
anything. You know, they need someone to tell them this. And I was speaking with a student yesterday, and she was talking about her reading, and she said, actually, I said, well, how much time do you have? You know, she said, I need to improve a band score. Is that realistic in this time frame? I said, well, how much time do you have in the day? Are you working? And she said, I have all the time, but I just don't know what to do. And I
Mm,
could empathize so much. Like, you've got so much, but how do you start?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
where do you start? And probably lots of students don't know there's a difference
yeah.
between accuracy and
No,
fluency. They probably think it's all the same thing. They just have to speak perfectly.
yeah.
But so fluency is just, oh, so now is Chit your first name, or is and your surname, your first name, because I'd like to be saying correctly. So she says, awesome, Sarah. Great. Yes. So good. So we need to separate accuracy and fluency and work on them individually. Good job. What would you say the third point is?
I think this is quite specific to IELTS and also the Cambridge exams. And this is when people don't really know enough about the world. So that real world knowledge. And that means that when you get a question from the examiner and it's something that you don't have direct personal experience with, it's like, uh-oh, I've never done that before. I don't know what to say. And then you just don't know what to do and you panic. So a lot of IELTS, a huge part of IELTS, all of the exam, the speaking, the listening, the reading and the writing is all about being able to answer questions and discuss stuff in the world. And I think a big problem that people have is when they're practicing for IELTS, they just do IELTS stuff. So they do lots of IELTS reading and lots of IELTS listening. And yeah, of course you have to do that.
That's right.
TED Talks, YouTube videos, documentaries, Netflix.
Oh,
You mentioned
yes.
someone joining a speaking club just to chat, because that is what develops your fluency, not practicing IELTS Part 2.
Yes. This is so poignant. So I hope you're taking notes, everyone. Did anyone pick up what Sarah just said, the resources? So did you pick up anything? Because she mentioned TED Talks. I was actually going to test you. So TED Talks are just a wonderful resource for learning about the world. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I see students in other groups saying, do you have Cambridge 13? Do you have Cambridge 14? I've done all the study. I've done all the Cambridge books. It's like, well, that doesn't really reflect what happens. All you're doing is testing yourself. You're not even actually kind of absorbing anything new. You're just testing yourself constantly. And you're practicing your test skills. You're not and enlarging your world knowledge. And of course, people from different cultures will have different world knowledge and different interests.
This is a huge part of the problem. IELTS is much better about this now, but I think it's probably fair to say there is a little bit of a cultural bias in the IELTS questions, in the exam, in the things that they ask you about. So if you're not from a European country, you need to understand, not understand and agree with, that's not what I mean, but you need to be familiar with kind of perhaps ways of thinking that might be different to your own. And that is so important, because that bias, on that DVD I told you about, most of the people up at the top, they were Europeans. Most of the people down at the bottom were Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. So this is something that I think people really need to be aware about. But the other thing that I would say, you were talking about people who are at 6.5 trying to get to a 7. At that level, if you get a question that you don't have that direct knowledge of, that direct personal experience of, that is your opportunity to use those conditional structures. And I say this because I have met so many students at that kind of top of B2, bottom of C1, who really struggle with conditionals. But being able to use them in a kind of, well, I don't know, I've never had that experience myself before, but I imagine that if I did do that, I would probably feel and being able to hypothesize and speculate your way out of those questions is going to impress the examiner so much. It's not about do you understand and do you know this? It's about how can you formulate your language so that you can respond. And I think
that's beautiful. So I'm actually making notes. I hope you don't mind. I'm stealing all of your genius. It's about how to formulate your language. Are you listening, everyone? How to formulate your language if you don't have experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because no one knows everything, right? Nobody.
Yeah. Okay. That is amazing. Don't have. Absolutely wonderful. So, what type of students do you work with just now, Sarah?
Oh, I still teach a really wide range of people. So I have worked with literally people who could only say hello, and that was the only English word that they knew. Hello, teacher, and end. Up to kind of beyond CPE. So I work with a really, really wide range of people from all over the world, literally all over the place.
I had a CPE student once, and I often had to excuse myself from the class to go to the library to look up in the dictionary the words that he'd used. I didn't have the answer. It's like, I'm never going to teach CPE again, ever. It just wasn't in my skill set. So that's really good. And And in what areas do you prefer working with, speaking, writing, reading, or
Ooh.
do you have...
I don't really have a preference. I think I enjoy all of them. I do like exam teaching, because I think it can really provide that external motivation for students. And I've had a couple of people who were, quite good language learners, but when they took that decision to do an exam, suddenly they were really motivated and they made massive, massive progress after making that choice.
That's amazing. Yes, it's funny what a time frame or a
Yeah.
goal does to people.
Yep.
It can have opposite effects. It has an opposite effect to me. So it actually destroys my momentum. But okay, so can you suggest some ways to overcome anxiety during the speaking test?
So the first thing, and I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence or preparation, but make sure that you are 100% prepared. So it's not uncommon for me to work with someone and they're like, yeah, I've been working for IELTS for 8 months, but they don't really understand what they are supposed to do in each part of the speaking test. So, for example, part 1, short answers. You need no more than 2 sentences in those part 1 questions. And a lot of people really don't get that and they don't understand. And then the examiner, who has a list of questions that they must ask you, will interrupt you if your answers are too long, and then people start to panic. So first thing, get 100% familiar with what you've got to do. Second thing is to breathe. Okay, so if I'm honest, I've got some physical symptoms of being slightly nervous at the moment. So I've got that slightly tingly feeling in my tummy. I'm a little bit kind of sticky. So I can feel that my body's aware that you guys are listening to me. But you can see that I often stop and take a little pause. And that's when I take a breath. And when Joy is asking a question, I really focus back on my breathing and make sure that I'm not doing this, because when we start to do this, we just get into a cycle of panic. So breathing, being familiar with stuff, and don't be afraid to ask if you don't understand. It's okay.
That's
It's
a big
honestly, it's
one.
okay.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Sarah. That's huge. And I think when I've been very anxious before, it's actually about, taking a moment to focus on actually what's happening, not concentrating on my own anxiety. So when the examiner's talking, I can, you can breathe, or, and I think just remembering it's going to be okay. I think we've got a tendency as humans to catastrophize. Don't think of the worst thing, just think this is going to be okay, and yeah, great. Thank you very much, Sarah. So let's just see, is this okay with you, Sarah, answering these questions?
Yeah, absolutely,
Okay.
of course.
How can I deal with pauses? Okay, so
Ooh.
does that mean your pause, or does yes, I think that probably means the student's pause.
Well, to a certain extent, a pause is natural. And again, this is a
Yeah.
kind of, people have this expectation that they've got to kind of talk like a steamroller and they mustn't ever stop and they've got as many words into the sentence as possible. And actually, you really don't. It's okay to speak slowly and I'm not speaking fast. I've got loads of pauses in my speech at the moment. Loads. You're not marked on that. However, if you speak like this, these are not pauses. This is hesitation, and that's a different thing. Okay, so a pause because you're thinking and you're reflecting is fine. But if your speech is kind of broken with lots and lots of pauses, you probably need to really work on your fluency and confidence as well.
Okay, so perhaps join a speaking club or
Yeah.
record themselves on
Yeah.
the phone. I cannot tell you how useful that is, and I think students don't realize the value of. It's so great to hear yourself.
Yeah.
And then this on how to cope up if you're off topic and the examiner skips that question.
Do you mean if the examiner... Not quite sure I understand this question.
Yes. Okay, so the person who asked this question, could you just perhaps give an example, or do you mean if you think you're off topic, or do you mean if the examiner stops you and goes to the next question? I've also, when I'm actually teaching or doing interviews, that's when I always get ideas of what to teach. So I was giving a student just a phrase the other day to show the examiner that she was finished, because she kind of didn't know how to finish a question and would just talk and talk and talk and talk. And I said, stop, stop. And I can't even remember what that phrase was. So we're just waiting for you to clarify your question. So we devised a way that she would tell the examiner that she was finished. And this, so if the question was, in what ways might someone do this, or in what ways might someone do that, then she would discuss some ways, and then she would say at the end, I think those are the main ways. And so we devised this phrase where she would say, I think that's probably the main cause, and where she would make it clear that she was finished, and that would tell herself that she was finished. And so
it's really important, because and people don't know how to stop themselves. And I've definitely been in that situation in job interviews where I've been asked a question and I start talking and I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember the question. So I don't know if I've answered it. So I don't know if I can stop. Oh, what am I going to do now? And it's a horrible, horrible, horrible feeling. So little phrases like that, and also intonation, because native speakers, when we're finished, generally our intonation will go down.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's how we show the next person, okay, I'm done, you can speak now.
Yeah. Okay. Now we don't have a clarification. Let's just say the student realizes they go off topic. What do they do when they realize, and then they're in a state of anxiety, and then they're doing basically what you just said, which is what I recently did in an interview?
Well, I would just stop. But you're not going to make the situation any better by continuing, particularly if you have forgotten the question, as I did, literally did. So I would stop, and depending on your rapport with the examiner, you could say, oh, I seem to have lost my thread there. Good idiom, but brownie point for you.
Lovely.
Would you mind repeating the question for me? Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that, because it is a natural part of a conversation to sometimes be like, oh, hang on a minute, what are we talking about? So if you can practice that and maybe learn a couple of nice phrases that you can use, and just be honest about it. The IELTS examiners are not monsters. They are people just like you. So they know what it's like to do an interview or do an exam and be nervous, and they're not going to eat you if you do that. And I would say it's better to be honest about it, learn some phrases to deal with it, and if it happens, just say so and ask them to give you the question again.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a lovely idiom, and I'll summarize that in the emails afterwards, everyone. So, and then finally we'll just do this one. Oh, hold on, we'll do two. Must you maintain eye contact at all times?
It's not in the band descriptors.
No, it's not.
They're not marking you on your eye contact. But obviously, if you're like this in your exam, every time they ask you a question, you look at the floor or you look at the ceiling. That's not giving a very good impression. So just be natural with your eye contact. And again, different cultures are different, right? In some cultures, we like to make eye contact because that's how we show we're listening. In other cultures, we don't. And it all connects up with thinking. When you're searching for an answer, your eyes might go up, but just be natural about it. And it's not a descriptor. So as long as you're not doing this, you'll be fine.
I was going to say behave like a human being, but then human beings behave in different ways.
Yes, and strange ways.
Yes. And then we'll just do this final one. So, are you allowed to move your hands, smile, or say,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely?
Yes,
If you say,
yes, and yes.
yes, yes, and yes, yes,
Yes, yes, and
absolutely.
yes. I mean, again, with the thing, it depends. Like in English, we use a lot of fillers. English has got a lot of fillers that native speakers use. So there is nothing wrong with saying unless you say it all the time and then it's a problem. But of course you can move your hands, and you absolutely, I would say, should smile at the examiner. If you smile, you change your whole physiology in your body, and you immediately send nice relaxing signals to yourself. So eye contact, smiling, absolutely you should be trying to do that. It's not like this. This is not IELTS. IELTS is just a conversation about some topics. That's all it really is.
I read that you should perhaps, when you're in the speaking exam, you should perhaps, like, how should you think of the person? Like you're saying, oh, they're very nervous around them. Think of it perhaps like a friendly teacher. So you're a little bit familiar with them, but you're still polite, but you can feel comfortable to ask questions.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's what you should be thinking. You should be
Absolutely.
thinking, and definitely be thinking of them as an equal, human being. They're kind people as
Yeah.
well, and they know that you're nervous, and
Yeah.
you're not the first person to speak to them all day. They're examining lots of people, so it's really okay. Yeah, Sarah, you have put together a little course or a program.
Yes. So this is called the IELTS Stress Fixer. So because IELTS is quite stressful. So it's not a complete IELTS preparation program. It is a short course which is really designed to target those 3 areas of stress, which in my experience for most people is speaking, writing, and the kind of mindset, nerves, and anxiety. So there are 3 lessons. It's 1-to-1 with me in this course. We do 1 lesson on speaking where you do a full speaking mock with me. So I will then become the examiner, and you will see a slightly different Sarah. And then you get complete written feedback on your speaking with the matched up to the band descriptors, so that you can see really where your speaking is at now and what you need to do to get to the score you want. With the writing lesson, I will give you a complete IELTS writing test before we meet. And again, I'll give you complete detailed feedback on task 1 and task 2. When we're together in the lesson, we get to go through your writing in detail. We can redraft, rewrite, look at problems, talk about paragraph structure, which is a huge problem in IELTS writing, and really just see what do you need to do again to get yourself up to that score that you're looking for. The mindset lesson, obviously, it's all about your thinking. It can be how to deal with nerves on the day, but if you're a little bit away from your exam date, it can also be things like study plans, study routines, being positive to yourself, and just creating those really good thinking patterns to help you as you prepare, because it's a long journey preparing for IELTS.
It is. I think, yeah. I did a little live in my Facebook group and realised you're not in my Facebook group this morning. And it is a long journey. And, students who succeed are often the students who are realistic about the time frame.
Yeah.
Not students who are like, I'm on about 5.5 and I want a 7 and I'm doing my exam in a week.
Not possible.
No. Now there is one more question which we'll do in a second, but I just want to, and we'll talk about this question. But yeah, so someone had said to me that success is the cumulative effect of small daily actions.
Yeah.
It's very, very unsexy. You don't see success happening quickly, but it does happen when you stick at it. And so small daily actions, and I would say 6 months is a realistic preparation period for the IELTS. You might have different ideas, and it all depends on what the student needs and what level they are. But if they're yes, so long journey. This is such a common question. Sarah, I'll leave you to answer that one.
I'll give you an example. This is a real person that I worked with 2 years ago. Totally lovely student, actually a very, very good speaker, probably 6.5 to 7. And he literally used an idiom in every other sentence, and I had to stop him because it sounded completely unnatural and ridiculous. So what I now teach my students about idioms is to really treat them like salt and pepper on your food. They are the flavoring, they are not the substance. And you should only really use them when it's natural to use them. Okay, so I forgot, I can't remember what you're saying. I've lost my thread. Well, that's a great time to use that idiom. But again, it kind of connects to the accuracy thing. If you're monitoring your speaking, trying to find the right place to use an idiom, you're going to lose your fluency. Synonyms.
Yes, that's so right. Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
No, synonyms. This is really something that you should be developing as your level increases anyway. So it's not really a case of how many should I use. It's just a case of if your lexis and vocabulary is developing in the right way, synonyms should be becoming part of your language naturally. And that's really important once you get up to the C levels.
Yes, absolutely. This student.
That is a fantastic question. I'm not going to go into my conspiracy theory about that. Because
do you have a conspiracy
I
theory?
do, but I don't
Do
feel
you?
quite ready to talk about it.
Oh,
I know a native speaker English teacher, IELTS expert, who had to take IELTS for various reasons and did not get a band 9. So if a native speaker English teacher struggled to get a 9, yeah, you can see that there are problems there. I think it's because IELTS writing is very difficult and they're looking for really, really, really specific things done really, really, really well. And my guess, again, is that most people don't have enough time to master that to the level that they really need. And you need a lot of grammar, you need a lot of vocabulary, you need to be familiar with the question types, and that takes time and effort and patience and practice. And I suspect a lot of people struggle at that 7. You've got to get up into C2, and that's a hard barrier to push through. C1 to C2. It's not easy.
I was just sharing earlier in the live, so we're doing this interview after I do a weekly essay evaluation, and when I started teaching IELTS, I decided I needed to know how to write an IELTS essay. So I wrote one and I sent it to an examiner. And I just thought, oh yeah, I'll be fine. I'll get a 9. I'm a native speaker, and I got a 7.5. And I was telling the students I was so shocked. Like, what's wrong with my essay? I'm a native speaker. It's like,
yep, absolutely.
So they are looking for specific things, but not only that. Actually, different examiners have different, even though they are supposed to stick to the same criteria, there's actually a difference on what some examiners accept and what some don't, and what some are looking for. We've got some nice feedback here. I'm glad I joined. It's been very educative and enlightening. That's lovely.
Thank you.
And what do you mean, does she know about B1 language? I mean, Sarah teaches all sorts of levels, but do you mean, does she teach that level? Or does she know how does it, oh, I see. How does it differ to IELTS? So like what band would B1 be?
Oh, do you know, I was actually looking at this before this interview in case I got asked a similar question. I wrote it down. It's actually surprisingly low, isn't it?
It's only about 5.5.
Yeah, B1 actually goes down into like 4.5, up into 5.5, to the kind of bottom of 6.
Okay.
Yeah, so but I was shocked yesterday. I had a student who's applying for a PhD here in the UK, and she only needed 6.5s in IELTS for a PhD program, and I was kind of a little bit horrified.
It is actually. So I teach a lot of university students, and the bar's quite low.
Yeah, it is. And then you go to do the actual program, and it's like huge step up, isn't it?
Yes. Sarah, thank you so very much. I know that you've got a couple of spaces on your program.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to email where can I subscribe with Sarah course. So I am going to email everyone with the link. You're going to give them, can't you? You've got your own Facebook group too?
Yes, it's not an IELTS specific Facebook group, and it's quite small at the moment, so it's very cozy. But there's lots and lots of video lessons. I also do a live lesson now on a Friday morning, which can be anything that people ask for. So I kind of take requests basically from people.
Let me just put the name in the comments. Is that okay? What's the name of your group?
It's Think Positive English.
Think Positive English. I can put this in the group as well. So Ray's quite a busy person, but I'm going to be speaking with her and asking her if she'll maybe work with me as well. So, and see if we can complement each other. But in the meantime, I'll email your program for anyone who's interested in that, and you can we can talk after this. I might even, they can respond to you if they've got questions. Maybe if you've got a work email address.
Absolutely.
Facebook group. Okay, you guys, you've done so great because it's been a long session. We don't normally have two things in one session. It's been weekly essay evaluation, but normally I'm going to start interviewing people, and normally I'd like to do that on a Thursday, but I was busy tomorrow. So thank you, Sarah. So let's just summarize the three main things. So there was the problem number one was thinking you have to be perfect, which you absolutely don't. That fluency is kind of more important.
Yeah.
And then problem number two, was it that not separating fluency and accuracy? Okay. Yeah. So working on them separately.
Yeah, absolutely.
Problem number three, only focusing on IELTS topics and not really having enough real world knowledge. And you've got to start reading and speaking about lots of world topics. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joy. It's been a pleasure.
Look forward to. Do come into the group. I'll send you the group link.
Yes, send me your group link. I'll come in, definitely.
And we'll speak soon.
Okay.
All right,
bye.
Okay. Bye.
Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Yes. Good luck, everyone. Yes.